Can you imagine trying to sleep in a crowded tube station? It was never built for this sort of work.
Here in the heart of the capital's theatre district is a hidden, though stylish, subterranean secret. This is Aldwych Tube Station, a ghostly relic of the past. And Ben Pedroche, aficionado of lost railways and disused tunnels, knows all its stories better than anyone.
Aldwych is a classic example of the architecture of Leslie Green. The oxblood tiles, the name of the station written across the top, was typical of his style of design across the network. You see here the bullseye logo, which was essentially the forerunner of the famous London Underground roundel, which everybody knows today around the world.
But the station hasn't played host to passengers since 1994.
Aldwych opened primarily to take people to and from the theatres. However, right from the start, it was very much underused. As with a lot of old stations, they were sited in a way that was either too close to other stations that made more practical sense, or the demand wasn't there, and Aldwych, unfortunately, was one of those stations that was always destined to never stay the course.
Even now that it's stopped functioning as a tube station, the wily Aldwych has found a new side hustle: Hollywood.
Of the disused stations across London, this is, without doubt, the most beautifully preserved one. It's got plenty of the original features and is actually still used today for filming movies and television programmes.
But during the Second World War, Aldwych and other underground stations were the stages for real-life drama. Londoners were being bombed and tube bosses faced a dilemma. Should they allow their stations to be used as makeshift bomb shelters?
During the air raids of the Blitz, people were looking for somewhere to shelter. Although there was apprehension at first from the London Underground for people to come down and shelter in the tubes, it made perfect sense. So eventually people were allowed down, and Aldwych in particular was a place where thousands of people would come to shelter every night. Eventually, as the war progressed and went on, it became a community. There was concerts down here, there was refreshments for people, there was things for the kids to do, things to play with, and it became an established community of people who would return here day in, day out, whenever there was an air raid.
But can you imagine trying to sleep in a crowded tube station? It was never built for this sort of work.
Deep-level shelters were built at some tube stations to give the public as much protection as possible. And after the war, these came in very handy for another group of people, but for very different reasons.
Clapham South Station had an underground shelter that was vast. That shelter had been closed after the war, but they opened it up again for the people coming in on the boats from the Caribbean and gave them a bed and somewhere to stay down in the underground. When they emerged, they came out, although it's called Clapham South, it's just on the edge of Brixton. So they emerged into Brixton and said, well, we'll stop here. So that's why there's a big, to this day, Caribbean, particularly Jamaican community living in Brixton.